I'm Barry Trammell from the Gatehouse Media Studio, and I'm joined now by Kenny Jacoby from the Gatehouse Data and Investigation Team. And Kenny has written a fascinating story about some of the excesses of college football spending, primarily as it relates to hotel bills the night before home games. And Kenny, it's a phenomenal practice that so many college football teams are spending money on putting up their squads at home games, and this is a long-held practice in college football. What have you found in terms of the costs of this practice?
Yeah, we filed public records requests at more than 100 different public schools that compete in the highest level of college football, the FBS. And we found that among the 101 schools that responded, 93 of them participated in this practice. And altogether, in 2018, they spent almost $5 million on just the room costs. The other thing is that when they spend these nights in the hotels, they often spend 3, 4, or 5 times as much on catered meals, conference room rentals, audio, video, and sometimes even things like water bottles.
This is particularly interesting as it relates to some of these programs are publicly funded with tuition, with fees. These are not all athletic departments that are self-sufficient.
Correct. And there are a handful of college athletic departments that are completely self-sustaining, meaning they raise all their own money and then spend it how they please. But the vast majority of them take some sort of subsidy from the academic side of the university or from students directly. That could be through a student fee, through the general fund of the university, which is primarily tuition dollars and state funds.
And what you found, it appears, is that some of this could be counterproductive because experts tell us that people who sleep in their own beds perform much better the next day, no matter what they're doing, but particularly athletics. Is this a case of just total misguidance?
Well, if you ask the neurobiologist who we interviewed, she would tell you that if you want to have the best chance of getting a good night's sleep before your game, then your best chance is to do that by sleeping in your own bed. And the reason is that when you break sleep routine, and when you do something out of the ordinary that is unusual, then you're going to increase your chances of having an impaired night's sleep. And there's another phenomenon that we touched on, which is called the first night effect. And that is essentially when a person stays in an unfamiliar environment on the very first night of their stay. The left hemisphere of their brain actually stays on alert throughout the night. It's sort of an evolutionary response. And the reason is, it is ready to respond to potential trouble. It's called a night watch effect. And all that put together, getting a bad night's sleep is going to have an effect on your cognitive and motor performance the next day, which are pretty essential for college football players.
So it might not help. It costs a bunch of money. So from your investigation, why do schools do this? What have they said about why this is so important to them?
The main reason we heard is they want to remove students from an environment where they might be distracted. Since a lot of these games happen on Saturdays, that means, on a Friday night, it could be noisy near their apartment, or, they might be tempted to go out and, party with friends. But what we learned is that, staying in a hotel is certainly not immune to those distractions either, especially because most of them are put up in a room with a roommate who might be snoring, who might get up in the middle of the night, where your bed might be uncomfortable. And furthermore, we talked to a former football player himself, who said that even when they stayed, miles away from their hometown, players still snuck out in the middle of the night and went out drinking.
Well, it's a fascinating report. Be sure and check it out. Good work. Kenny Jacoby with Gatehouse Media Data and Investigation Team.
Thank you.